Hey, everybody, welcome to a new episode of the Hemmings Hot Rod Barbecue Podcast. On today's episode, we have automotive graphic designer, creator, illustrator, Abimelec Arellano. Thank you for coming back onto the podcast, dude. It's always good to see you and talk about your crazy designs that you do for the entire world to see. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing good, man.
Awesome.
I'm doing good.
Thank you for having me again. This is always so fun to do.
No, dude, it's so for those out there, I need you to go to Abimelec's page. So go ahead, throw out your Instagram page right now. This is a visual episode, people, so I need you to listen. All right. What's your Instagram page?
It's Abimelec Design. It's just at Abimelec Design. It's a little tricky to write. Abimelec Design. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
That.
So now here's the thing. There are a bunch of graphic artists on Instagram and throughout the internet, and they all have kind of their different flavors of designing vehicles, designing whatever it is. Abimelec's style is interesting because he does a lot of what ifs, creations that you never knew you wanted until you saw his artwork. And it's part of it is the most frustrating thing in the whole world, because every time I see him design something new, I'm just like, God damn it, because then I want to go out and I want to build it. But the other part is the what ifs are these creations that, like, what if Porsche had entered NASCAR? What if, what if Ferrari, what if you combined an F40 with a Ford Mustang? What if the last gen, the final gen Crown Victoria came in a station wagon, right? There are so many wonderful things. So I wanted to have him back on to talk about design, to talk about how you got into cars, and when you first thought about that you kind of had the talent for doing this, and where did that spur up? And before I do this, though, I am going to share my screen on the podcast. Let's see if I could do this. I'm probably going to screw this up because I always do. So if I do, let me see.
There we go. That's it.
I did it. All right. See, look at that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. All right. So this is the thing. You want to go to Abimelec Design on Instagram and just start scrolling. So talk to us first about how you got into the design field and why cars.
So I got into it. Basically, I've always been into cars ever since I can remember. I really don't recall a time where I just decided that I was into cars. There's been a perpetual thing in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was a little kid and I had my first computer, I started playing around with Photoshop. And at that time, it was very popular to do that, kind of take an image of a car and put new wheels on it, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I got into Photoshop, and I just self-taught myself. Well, self-taught the process behind modifying an image. And eventually I made a Facebook page because of a few friends talked me into that, and like, hey, you should build a page and to upload the stuff that you do. And so I did, and it just snowballed from there into doing all this stuff that you're looking at the screen right now. Like now I'm not using just Photoshop. I'm using 3D models and a little bit more complicated software than Photoshop. But it all started there.
But when you started doing the more advanced stuff, I mean, you started with, so first off, where do you are there canned images? So for instance, say if you want to do a Ford Mustang, are there canned CAD images that you can go and purchase that are of these vehicles, or are you literally creating these things from scratch?
Yeah, so there's a couple ways that you could go about that. Like there's a huge marketplace for 3D models specifically. A lot of people, very talented people who can do just based on like blueprints of cars, they can just do the whole car in 3D. So I could go and spend like, that's a very time consuming task, modeling a whole car to that level of detail. It's a little time consuming. So it's common practice to buy the base model. Like, for example, that CUDA that you're showing on screen, the initial model was a coupe. It was a coupe, and it didn't have the shaker hood and all that. So I bought that model, and then I built upon that. because modeling that car would be a month, maybe 3 weeks of
Wow.
work. And when you're working with a client, like doing some renderings, it really time is important. So sometimes you cannot spend a whole bunch of weeks or even a month or
Yeah.
months doing one single rendering, because like for example right now it's SEMA season for me. So I'm like
Yeah,
on
you
the
got to be going
SEMA crunch.
crazy.
Yeah, so time is key. So it's mostly models that are pre-existing, and
Mhm.
then I modify them.
Gotcha, gotcha. And for those that are listening right now, I'm looking at a 1970 Plymouth Cuda that he turned into a Targa. And when I say he turned
Yeah.
into a car, you've got a little bit of a Porsche B pillar in there with kind of a
Yeah.
swooping rear glass. And the problem with this is, and obviously it has a Hellcat motor, because why wouldn't it, with a shaker on it?
Yeah. No
But
budget on 3D builds.
no budget on 3D belts. But
Yeah.
what's amazing about your renderings is that you look at these things and you go, "Oh Jesus, that looks good." And
Yeah.
and I know that a lot of automotive designers, actual automotive designers who work for OEMs around the world, follow you, because you're crafting these
I've noticed that.
designs.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're crafting these designs, and many times you're making their original creations look a hell of a lot better.
I
Or you're,
appreciate that.
so, and you're differentiating them to the point where it's the whole what if thing. And it
Yeah,
is just an
exactly.
amazing, amazing thing to me. Um,
Yeah. It's a little I guess it's not completely fair to do the comparison, because I'm not strained by regulations or anything.
correct, correct.
So it is, it's more of a, I always explain when people ask me like, what do you do for a living? It's more of a conceptual design for like personal stuff, in this case cars. So I always try to do stuff that you would be able to do just fine. Like nobody would, there wouldn't be any issues with most of the stuff that I do. It's pretty much all possible. But
Yeah.
when you're talking OEMs, like for example, when I did the one that you're showing, the coupe Crown Victoria,
Yes.
it looks great and it's totally doable if you're willing to chop up one of those.
Right.
I know a lot of people commented like, why Ford didn't do it, because nobody would have bought it. Like
Right.
3 people probably would have bought it. So it's that kind of niche space that I live in.
But to your point, there are so many things that designers want to do but can't, because
Oh
they're
yeah,
under,
absolutely.
rules and regulations for cafe regulations and things of that nature. But what I always find amazing is that you manage to create these renderings of vehicles, and you're going to see one that he did for us on a Dodge Hornet that we're going to release very, very soon,
Yeah.
which is a really cool project that Hemmings is working on currently, that we're actually building, that's going to come to fruition. And it's it's one of those things where it's almost like, if you can dream it, Bill could design it. And that's the cool part. And so when we started talking about this idea, it was, okay, this is what we want incorporated into this. We want flares, we want this, we want that. And he came back, and it's almost like you're able to read what everybody says, but take it to a point where it's, like you said, it's totally doable. Nothing is so outlandish on your designs that you look at them and go, that can't be done. Right. And I think that's an amazing thing.
I really appreciate that. That's kind of one of my the rules that I set to myself when I started doing all this. That if kind of the baseline is, if I couldn't drive this like for real, I try to make it that I can. So like obviously the 99% of these cars don't exist, but it's that baseline. Like I should be able to drive this if I wanted to.
Right.
If it existed, it should be doable. So that's always the thinking behind.
So let me ask you. I mean, you also do these things. Like, I'm going to click on one right here for the Bentley Bentayga, and this is a really interesting piece, because
Yeah.
if you go back to the 1980s, when Range Rover basically created their long wheelbase Range Rover,
Yeah.
you basically said, well, what if Bentley were to do it? if we capitalized on kind of what would it look like? And so you're taking genres like, the super luxury, super, high-end SUV market, and you're bringing them back 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
And you're saying, what would it look like if they did it then? It's the what ifs.
Yeah, exactly.
And,
yeah,
it's just such a great concept.
I really appreciate it. That idea came through one day. I was in the shower and I thought, man, how I wanted to do a track hook. And back then, this was like 2019. I was just doing like custom cars, like some of my ideas, just customizing stuff, just new trends or whatever, trying mashing up styles. But this thought came because I wanted to do an XJ, a Cherokee XJ, and I thought, man, how am I going to do it? And just the idea came through to make it as if Chrysler made a track hook back in the 80s, because the 80s is one of my favorite decades, because I feel like brands had a lot of fun because they had to for example, American manufacturers specifically, they weren't that good. The cars were not.
No, they were garbage. You could say it. American cars back in the 80s, they were garbage.
Yeah, they had to do other stuff like the bright colors and the decals, and you remember how I think it was the Aspen, the Chrysler Aspen, or was it Dodge?
It probably had the pinnacle of junk.
Yeah, it was like 150 horsepower, and it didn't do anything good, but they had like that body kit that you could put on, and crazy decals. So that's kind of the thinking behind it. And I thought that was a lot of fun. I think it would have been the same if they did a track hug. It would have been probably very, very slow and terrible in every way, but it would have had cool details and colors and stuff like that. So I did that, and I tried to do it differently in a way that it had to be period correct. So I started, searching and looking at the ads and reading reviews from the time, and because it was a time that I didn't get to live.
Yeah.
So it was really fun understanding and reading and looking at the referencing. And when I posted it, people just loved it. I was so happy about that and thankful. So people loved it. And I thought, well, I guess then I could do another car. And it just rolled over, and it snowballed from there.
I think you touch a nerve, right? So like I just pulled up, for those that don't know, and I'd like you to, again, if you can, go to his page. You also put things in a setting. So it's not just a flat, it's not just a, one 3D image, one rendering on a background. So perfect example. This is one of your what ifs, and it's a 90s Grand Marquis / Crown Victoria.
Yeah.
And you made up a magazine called Car and Steerer, and you put it on the cover. And it is, what if Ford had applied the Cobra R treatment from the late 90s to a Crown Victoria?
Yeah.
Right. And from the engine to the side exit exhaust and wheels and wing on the back, these are the type of cars that you look at and you go, oh my God, like I would love to create this. So people,
it would have been fun.
Have people reached out to you and said, I'm going to build this, or I'd like to build this? And have you ever seen one of your creations really come to life?
I have seen, but they are the custom stuff. Like, hey, I'm building this Nissan 240Z, and I'm doing this, that. I would like a rendering, and it's just their idea of a custom car. Those are usually like, it's really cool to see, like, hey, it's finally built, and they send over the pictures. Yeah. But these what ifs, people really like them, but I haven't seen anyone take on the task of. I've seen scale models. That's pretty cool. Yeah, people do them on scale model. That's amazing. I usually share them on the page. But the Hellcat Pacifica, it's kind of, some people want to build it, or it's in the works, which is really cool. But like stuff like that, for example, the Trackhawk Cherokee XJ, nobody has jumped into it.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, which would be cool. And it's just a sticker pack.
It is a sticker pack, but I also like that you pull vehicles out of their genre completely and transform them. So for those, I just pulled up a 54 Gullwing Mercedes, a 300 SL Gullwing, that you turned into a straight lowrider.
Yeah.
You put, pewter metal paint on it. It's on Dayton's. It's slammed. It's
The
three-wheeling,
curb feelers.
curb feelers. And all of a sudden, again, you look at these things, and the beauty of the way that the designs are done is they are really, just about photorealistic.
I appreciate that.
So you look at them, and again, it gives you all these different ideas, and then you start to come up with the story behind them. Who would have bought this? Why would they have bought this? Where would it have lived? What would the cost have been?
Yeah.
And it kind of sends the imagination into a carnival ride of, automotive, ecstasy, because you're looking at these things going, Jesus, that's cool. Oh my God, that's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
that's
it's just plain fun.
Yeah, that's pretty much the whole reason. I used to have a little bit of debate with myself, like where all this stuff that I do, where does it land? And when I did the first What If, like completely committed to it, which was the Trackhawk Cherokee XJ, I realized how much value people found it entertainment wise, because I would get messages like, I would see somebody commenting it, and then a private message like telling me how, maybe they had a story with an XJ or something like that. And it was a lot of fun to see how people liked it. So I took it in that direction, more of so people could make their own stuff up based on just letting it fly. Just let your imagination go wild.
Yeah, that's, but I think the other part of it is you're also able to take very pedestrian cars that people wouldn't necessarily turn into quote unquote performance vehicles.
Yeah.
And you're doing that. You're doing it in a way where, again, it's all about customization. Here's the XJ we're talking about.
That's the one.
Yeah. And it's again, it comes down to, you're really only limited by your imagination. And the cool part is now in 2023, you look at these things and you go, well, if you can design it, there's a customizer out there that can absolutely build it.
Yeah,
right.
Definitely.
None of these are off the table, which I think is the crazy part.
Yeah, and even more so nowadays with 3D printing and all that, it's very easy to do a lot of stuff.
I mean, I love this. So
the Build GTI. So I don't know why that never happened.
the Beetle GTI, like it just. But you wrote an ad around it. You wrote an actual ad around it, which makes perfect sense. That's
my favorite part, writing the ads. It's just when I was doing the Cherokee, I was looking at all the vintage ads, and just because I wanted to get the feeling of the look of the truck right. But then it dawned on me like, hey, I could write an ad and it would make it 100 times more believable. And it's all in the little details, like getting the logos right, because back then the font might have been different. And for example, back then Jeep had it was Jeep Eagle, like for a very brief time in the 80s. So you had to have that logo, and sometimes it's a little tricky to get the everything that right, but it pays off, because a lot of people tell me like, hey, I remember those ads when I was a kid, or I had one of those, or I went with my parents to buy one of those new. So I saw the brochures and they would look just like that. So it's a lot of fun. That's the coolest part.
It's definitely neat. Again, this is a very visual episode. So for those, again, you'll have to go to Abimelec Design on Instagram and check it out. But we're looking at another one right now, which is Escalade by Cadillac. Now, this Escalade it looks based off an early late 70s, early 1980s Suburban.
Yeah.
Right. With the Cadillac grill on it. And, it's pretty much probably what they would have done.
I don't know why they didn't. It's one of those cars that it's so right it looks correct.
It's just, I don't know. It's pretty amazing. Now, Ryan, our producer, is sitting in the background. Brian, pop yourself in here and give us an idea. Like, what have you been looking at? What do you look at and you're like, okay, that's kind of cool? Because some of these things just light me up. They crack me up.
I mean, I think I look at a lot of like the more modern takes. I mean, some of the classics, like the Cadillac, that Escalade. I mean, that is amazing. But I kind of like the ones, especially where you take like a streetcar, like Actually, that's funny. Go back down to that Lamborghini there, because like they just came out with that. Like,
Oh, yeah,
Lamborghini
that's
actually
exactly
did come out with one of those. That's what I love. It's like
that, but I guarantee you, somebody at Lamborghini looked at this and said, "Yeah, we can do that."
Yeah,
Wait,
that was when they launched the prototype. Like they had some of the guys from Motor Trend and other magazines review it, like the camouflage prototype, and it was, oh, we're making this over a Lamborghini, but nobody knew what it looked like. So I just took a Performante and made it off-roady. So
and I love the fact that you don't just do like one render and done and be like, okay, here's my concept. This is the one render, I'm done. But we get to see it from all the angles in the environment. It's really great. And it's clean. I mean, like I look for like people when they're photoshopping stuff and it's like, well, that looks clearly like an awful Photoshop. These ones, I mean, granted, they're renders. The trained eye can tell that, but they're good enough where you're like, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and with 3D, there's chasing photorealism is just a huge, immense world. There are a lot of artists who can do it, and you, even like me, that I work every day with these tools. I look at an image and the guy says, "Oh, this is a rendering. I did it with this software," and I'm like, "That's not a rendering. That's a photo." So I go back to mine, and mine are pretty clearly renderings, and it's just such a huge world that I have so much to learn still. But yeah, it's always the I always try to make it believable enough that it portrays an image that you can like, okay, that's how it's going to look.
Yeah.
If it were to get built, because that's what the clients are looking for. The other, I guess the other way of doing what I do is drawings. But sometimes people look for a little bit more than drawings, but without spending, maybe putting in a paint job that they're not sure they like. So that's where renderings come in very handy.
So I got a question for you. What was the first time that somebody looked, because you said you basically started doing this for friends. Yeah. So what was the first commission that you had?
I remember that. It was a guy who reached out on my Facebook page. And he was building a Volkswagen Rabbit, a Mark I Rabbit, and he had put it in. He put the whole body on a Chevy S10 chassis, and it had the 4.3, and it was just stock car wheels, big Goodyears, and the front end was it didn't fit anymore, so he had to extend it. I think it was probably 5-6 inches. So he wanted to look how the fender would look with a little bit more overhang, and that's what I did pretty much. It was just bare metal. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Let me ask you also, like, I'm staring right now, and this looks to be the latest one you posted.
Yeah, I posted actually today.
Yeah, you did a 1967 Lamborghini Miura. Now, the Miura is my all-time favorite car. I just think it is the most beautiful automobile ever made. I'll die on that hill. Beautiful. I think it's stunning. And you made a NASCAR out of it.
But it looks good.
It looks, and this is the problem I have with so much of your stuff, because I'm like, son of a bitch. Because if somebody would have said he's going to modify, I'd be like, you're just going to ruin it. And then you see it and you're like, it's not ruined. God damn it. So is there anything to you that is off limits, where you've seen a design or you've seen a car and they're like, you can't improve upon that?
Yeah. No, go ahead.
No, that's my question.
I'm sorry. Yeah, there are a couple cars, but not because like they're off limits. Maybe it's more because I personally wouldn't just do. I think they're fine the way it is. Some cars. For example, the Eagle Speedster, the one that's based on the E-Type, that I wouldn't touch a thing. The Miura, it's one of those cars, but like the Miura, for example, the stock Miura, if you look at it, maybe you could nitpick, maybe the wheels are a little too inside the wheel wells, maybe some slight differences. What other car? What car I've always wanted to do a rendering of? And I've started like maybe 3 or 4 times. I never get to finish because I just don't feel it too much. the 928, the Porsche 928.
You're killing me because I used to have a 928.
Yeah, I know you had a 928.
So like,
yeah, like I've tried some styles and I'm just like halfway through. I'm like, nah, I don't like it. I just thrash it. I don't know what it is about that car. The BMW E30, that one too, it's a little tricky to modify because it's yeah, like I would do something like it doesn't look bad, but it doesn't look better.
Now you said 928, so I'm gonna hold you to that because
that's one. I don't know if you saw the turbo one.
Yeah, it's on there, the turbo one. In fact, I was just looking at that.
Yeah, the 928 turbo. That was a really fun one. I love that one. People didn't like it that much. I don't know why, but I did.
Here it is.
There it is.
So I just pulled it up. So the 928 is one of those. Yeah, the 928 is one of those weird cars that it's most people love it or most people hate it.
Yeah,
and there's not, so much. I loved the one that I owned. It from a reliability standpoint, it was expensive, which is why I don't own it anymore. But I will tell you, if I had an unlimited income, I would instantly go out and buy the world's cleanest 928 GTS, 94 to 96 GTS with a manual I could find, and I would drive the shit out of it but it is a tough car. I can see your point. It's a tough car to play with, to modify, right?
Yeah, it's so unique, so that it's kind of difficult to come up with something. What I did with this one is just a little wider on the back arches, and it just has a lot of the 930 turbo body kit. But that works because it's pretty much the same teams designed both cars probably. So it kind of worked by itself. I didn't do much
this is kind of the problem with your renders is I know what a 928 looks like, but when I see that, I then have to pull up a photo of what it actually looks like because I'm like, wait a minute, was that how it looked? Like, right. You mess with my reality, and I don't like that.
Well, I think it's a great point.
In my opinion, that's one of the I guess ways that you can measure how a car modification is done, because
it's not obvious.
Yeah, exactly. When it's not obvious, when the guy has to explain, I winded the arches and everything. That
Mike, go back to that ridge line. I want to see that ridge line that's a little further down.
Oh, that one was for a client, and that was a pretty cool project. Yeah. He told me that.
Neat.
That's tight.
He was very specific about what he wanted. For example, you guys remember the AMC Javelin that Ring Brothers built for, I think it was Prestone?
Oh yeah.
They fixed the Javelin by moving the front axle a couple inches. So that pretty much gave the car, they fixed the proportions. And they didn't say right away what it was, but when I saw the car, I was like, there's something done to that. And I don't know what it is. And then they came out and explained, we moved everything forward. The front overhang is smaller, the axle is forward. So I was like, okay, that's good thinking.
Yeah.
So what are your favorites to do? Do you enjoy doing JDM stuff? Do you enjoy European? Do you like American stuff? Like, do you have a genre that's your favorite to modify?
I try to make a little bit of everything, but the what ifs are more fun, definitely. Yeah. And with that, I can do like pretty much the ideas come, and it's really not depending on, if it's American, I prefer it, or if it's Japanese or European. It's just maybe I would watch a movie or listen to a song, and it was like, oh, what if this happened? And when I get an idea, it's just that. I think it's a lot of fun to do the older American ads, because in some eras they used to play a lot with colors, and it was very good. Like, for example, I really like the way Chrysler was doing marketing back in the late 70s, 80s. Mm-hmm. That was it's a lot of fun to read. Some of the European stuff, which like a little bit more, sometimes I do struggle with finding period ads, So that's a lot of fun to do as well. So to research, like the more obscure stuff, I guess you could say.
But I love the fact that like we're looking right now, we're looking at a Dodge Intrepid. That's a car that 27 people bought.
Yeah,
Okay.
and the 27 are now in the junkyard.
Yeah.
Now and yet you pulled a Dodge Intrepid and said, yeah, I could do this.
Yeah.
Like, what was the genesis of all the cars in the world? You picked a Dodge Intrepid to do a bunch of modifieds.
You know why? Because I was in a highway in Mexico. It was the bit of between a town in Hermosillo and Nogales, Arizona. So in that bit of road, there's a huge plot of land with a lot of retired cop cars, highway patrol, Mexican highway patrols. And in the early 2000s, they used Dodge Intrepids. So we went by there and I looked at the whole bunch of destroyed Intrepids and I thought, it's not a bad looking car. I know they're bad, but it's not ugly. No. So I thought, how would it look with a set of nice wheels? And this is doable. It's just a set of wheels, but nobody on their right mind will do it because the wheels alone, a set of Volk D37s are worth like double what an Intrepid is.
And, you know, I never quite realized. I had to look up what the original Intrepid looked like.
Yeah.
But the nose, I didn't realize it had so much of the Viper in it. If you actually like, at first I was like, wait, did you Photoshop a Viper nose?
A Viper
nose, it's like, oh no, that's actually how the thing looked. That's crazy. Never realized that at the time.
Yeah, the Intrepid is just pretty much a four-door Viper. It's a good looking car. I've always liked them. My dad had a New Yorker LHS, I think it was.
Oh yeah,
and it was a good looking car. If it was rear drive and V8, would have been a hit.
Those are some big what ifs.
Well, this is another big what if, right? Now we're on to the 1985. What is this? 1985 Audi R8.
So that one is a very interesting one. Those were made with AI. I had a shot at it, and it was because a lot of people were like asking me. But this is when they came out with like the image creation software with artificial intelligence. So I tried it, and it was very.
Oh my god, that's horrendous! Like, what's going with the nose on that one?
Yeah,
that's what is this? This is the
that's an old Lexus, like 73 Lexus LS 400. That's what it would have looked like, because there's a guy I actually tagged him in this post. Automotive AI. He does really, really cool stuff. It's a little scary because what I take maybe 2 or 3 weeks to do, he can do with AI in like 5 minutes.
Yeah, and but it looks like he did it in 5 minutes.
Yeah, no, I mean his stuff. This guy, Automotive AI, he's pretty good. He got the way of the writing the prompts. He got it dialed in. He's super good at it, and his results are really cool. But yeah, this was just me having a go at it. Some ideas that I had, and yeah, it looks kind of weird. AI needs still a little bit of.
It's the whole like 7 fingers thing going.
Yeah,
on
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, so it was just experimenting. Yeah, I was a little. I had a couple of friends like, "Hey, you just lost your job."
So, well, that's actually a great question. With oh my god, Fast and the Furious, circa 1988, with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Tom Cruise.
That would have been a good movie.
The fact that you actually did that, oh my god. Do you think, talking about AI, that is going to come into it more and more and more? And I mean, we've talked about it regarding, different, writers and journalists. But how do you think it's going to affect design and what you do?
So it's really, I think the most scary part is the way it's progressing. It's very quick. Like those renderings that we showed, I made them like a few months ago, and you can see that are pretty clearly, that 7 fingers and everything is weird. But now if you get the prompts right to the machine, it can put out really convincing images. like very, very convincing images. It's really learning. So I used to think like, oh, maybe it's really a problem for stuff, for the type of work that I do, because let's say I saw a video of you know how Photoshop introduced AI rendering. So there's this guy, he took a BMW 3 Series and with AI pretty much made it a convertible like in 5 minutes. So I do sometimes work for magazines or internet publications. Like they would come on, they would send me an email and say, hey, we just, I don't know, spied the new convertible 911 or the new Targa 911, and we want you to make it so we can post about it. And I would do that and I would charge them. But now AI can do that as well. So that's a reality. And I guess that's fine. It's just the way technology goes. But I guess the more specific concepts, they do need a bit of human judgment, and the more like artistic stuff, it's I don't think it'll get replaced by AI, because AI exists on the basis of stuff that already exists. It still is not able to create something new. So that is the conclusion that I got after a lot of thinking.
By the way, I think I've seen that car in the Pacific Northwest.
Oh,
the
yeah.
Arctic Master. Okay, not that exact car, but I feel like I've seen things like that just driving up here.
Yeah, that would be so cool.
Regarding the AI thing, I think a good example possibly is like, because you worked with Mike on the renderings for the new Hornet project.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you're doing just a prompt, you're not going to be thinking, the AI system's not going to be thinking, at least in its current version, about the mechanics and requirements of the final product, because you're actually creating renderings for something that's final. So you at least have that, to kind of cover your ass right now.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely. And like, for example, I saw one of my clients that I work with, it was a major publication. They posted some AI renderings, and I was like, okay, that's it for me with this client. And like a couple of days later, I got an email from them like, hey, we're doing this project and we want you to have it. We want to have you in it. And he told me he started talking about the topic that we tried AI, but it's really good to get the idea going. Like, I don't have to write you an email and hope that you understand the way I'm explaining. I can just send you like, hey, I did this in AI. I want this, but done well.
But make it work.
Yeah, exactly.
Garbage.
Yeah. So that's the part of human judgment that I think it's still needed. I don't doubt for a second that maybe the day will come that is not the case anymore.
But we're pretty far from like the current AI prompts. They're really not that smart. And even though people say they're getting smarter, they're going to hit a wall. And we don't have true AI in the public access at this point. Yeah. So
exactly.
It's not like going to be tomorrow, but maybe it'll be in a few years.
Yeah, it might be. I mean, but what I think it does lack is the imagination, right? So it's a perfect example. Looking at another image. What if the movie Bullet, as opposed to using a Dodge Charger and a Ford Mustang, use a Ford Lightning and a Dodge SRT 10, right? Yeah. Pickup truck. And it's stuff like that makes you go, huh?
Yeah. That idea came because a friend of mine got a Lightning. It was a red Lightning, and I was just thinking, how would it look in what's the name of the color?
Highland Green.
Highland Green, yeah. Overland Green, I was gonna say. Yeah, Highland Green. How would it look? How would a Lightning look in Highland Green? And they just snowballed, like, hey, I'm gonna make it look like a Bullet truck.
That's cool.
Yeah. Dude, it's crazy. I think your ideas have they definitely, every time I see one pop up, it sparks my imagination and just makes me wish that I was earning more money so I could actually build these. Because there are so many different things in here that I keep looking through, and it's if you don't want to build the exact same thing that you've designed, what it does is it gives everybody an idea. Yeah, it gives people an idea of what's possible, of oh man, I wouldn't have even thought of that. And I really think that's the best part about these renderings, is every single one is the what if, right? Mm-hmm. And it's not, and everything is obtainable, right? Like it just is. I mean, this is one, it looks like you did for kind of a speed core.
Yeah, speed. Yeah, that was done with speed core.
but you've got an old Dart or Demon, like a 71 Demon.
Yeah.
But you've got elements of a 69 Camaro, of the speed lines going down off of a Z28 Camaro. You've got pillarless glass, you've got dual snorkel hood off a newer Challenger. And it's one of those things where you go, this is totally buildable.
Yeah.
Right? If you have the money and you've got a good body guy that can sculpt some metal, this is 100%. Is that 2JZ?
No, it's not. No, it's an F20, I think. That's the name. If an F20C, it's the engine of the Honda S2000.
Okay, I was like, what?
Wait.
You see that's the other part. It's just
yeah.
S2000 engine in that.
That came about because the one of the guys at Speedcore, the media team, it's like huge into Hondas. And we were just talking. I'm like, hey, let's do it. Why not?
That's awesome.
It's a pretty light car. It should move pretty good.
Yeah. No, dude, these are spectacular. So what other images, or what haven't you done that yet that you really want to?
Sometimes I do like think like what is it left to do? But I guess ideas will never run out. It's just I have a board right next to me in the wall because sometimes it has happened a lot of times that I get an idea and I think that's going to be amazing, and then the next day I'm like, what? I don't remember it. So I have this board where I could be writing, I could be looking at a YouTube video or working, and I'm like, this idea is good, and I just write it, and I just look at it like, what can I do? I'm going to do that one.
Okay, now that you've modified and done so many cars, right? So many existing models. Has there ever been a time you wanted to design your own car, like straight from scratch? And have you ever, jotted something down or doodled and be like,
I have thought about it, but I don't know why the idea is not that appealing. I would rather do something with an existing brand or existing heritage. Like, for example, one of the ideas that I have tried to board is a Cadillac, a new Cadillac, but built with the ethos of the 50s Cadillac. Try to make, for example, a modern take on the huge fins. That's I don't know why, but I just can't. I've tried some doodling on the notebook, but I just can't come up with something solid enough. So that's kind of in the stuff like that.
That's cool.
Stuff like that.
Well, dude, I'm gonna pester you until you knock out a 928.
I'm gonna do it eventually. I need to come up with something good. I had this idea of a 928 like mushed up with a 918, like the wheels, the arches, maybe the color.
Okay.
But I still haven't figured out what elements to bring to carry over to the 928 from the 9.
What about an IMSA 928?
That would be pretty cool. A DTM one, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. That's a very cool idea.
See, you're welcome.
You're definitely getting the credit for that. 100%.
No, dude, these are great.
I appreciate that.
It's coming up on a really quick hour, but dude, like I said, I wanted to have you back on to just talk about design and talk about the mashups. And what have you got coming up? Are you going to be going to SEMA this year?
Yeah, definitely SEMA. It's on the plans, because there are a few projects that I've had the fortune to work on that are going to be presenting at SEMA. And
yeah, we're building one of them.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just a cool event. Like last year I went, it was just so fun. The plan is to have my project, drive my project there. So we'll see how that goes. It was supposed to be ready like 5 months ago, but
that's how it goes.
Dude, I'm
that's how it goes.
I never thought I'd say this. You did a new Prius.
Yeah, that's the new Prius. I like it. I prefer it to the old one, but it's still a Prius.
It is still a Prius, but you know what? It looks good.
The wheels do a lot of like removing the black cladding that makes it look crossovery makes a hell of a lot of difference.
Yeah. No, totally agree. I'm not going to end this on a Prius though. The hell with that. That'd be sacrilege. Somebody punched through the internet and hit me in the face. I am going to end it on this. I'm going to end it on one of my favorite ones that you've done, and this is the IMSA Crown Vic,
Crown Victoria,
which is just wide fender flares and discs.
That was based like they announced last year. They announced the new Need for Speed game, and actually one of the another artist on Instagram, the Kaiser, he did a design for the Crown Vic for that game. And it was very, very IMSA inspired. So I looked at that and I thought that is the coolest thing in the world. And I thought maybe tone it down a little bit because it is too extreme in the game. I love that. But I thought, how would it be if somebody were to build it on his garage and try to use it, maybe take it to an autocross or something, but use it normally. So that's kind of the goal that I had with that rendering. I love Crown Vics.
Dude, everybody loves Crown Vics. I've always said you can have a nuclear war, whatever happens, you can have cockroaches and Crown Vics are going to rule the earth.
Yeah, totally.
That's it. Those will be the last survivors.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, dude, thank you again for coming on, dude. It's always awesome to see you. Always awesome.
Thanks to you for having me. I enjoy a lot doing these.
Oh, dude, it's great. And for those people out there that want to build their dream car, this is my plug for the Hemmings Marketplace and auction. Go to the classifieds and buy your car, and then send an image of it to Abimelec and say, design me something let's build it. So,
buy the Hemmings and put a Hellcat in it.
That's it. So give everybody just one last time all your socials handles, where they can find you if they want to do commissions and things like that.
Okay. Yeah. So it's Abimelec Design everywhere. And if for reaching out, email or the same like direct messaging. I'm always have an eye there. Abimelec, I guess I should spell it again, right? Abimelec. It's a little tricky. I'm sorry, but it's cool.
But this is awesome, dude. Looking like I had mentioned, we are actually at Hemmings building a 2023 Hornet that cool. Abimelec design that you guys are going to wait and see. And Ryan's actually doing the filming on it for a brand new series that's coming out. We'll tease more about that shortly. Maybe pop an image up later on.
Maybe.
But otherwise, dude, awesome. Always great to see you, buddy. Ryan, obviously, always great to see you.
Likewise, Mike.
Thank you very much for having me, guys.
Of course.
Great time.
Thanks.
Of course. And that's it, guys. We'll see you next time on the Hot Rod Barbecue Podcast. Later.
See ya.
Thanks for listening, folks. And again, please subscribe to the Hot Rod Barbecue Podcast. If you're on Spotify, check us out there. Subscribe to it on iTunes. And if you are going to go to YouTube, make sure you go to the Hot Rod Barbecue Podcast and hit that subscribe button. And we'll come to you every week.